post play. Statistics have proven that for every 3 passes made in a basketball game, 1 goes inside to the low post area, as this offers a high scoring percentage. Post play is a game within the game. Size and strength are winning factors in any game, but not when illegal contact is allowed to go unpunished. When illegal contact compensates for the lack of skill, it is not in the spirit of basketball. Post play requires the referees to balance the physical conditions and the skills of the players with what they are doing on the court. Post players master their skill. They learn and implement new techniques, and the difficult task for the official is to control that the player's actions do not create an unfair advantage. In post positions, various arm, body, and leg contacts occur. Even if many of them are negligible, they sometimes cause complaints from players and coaches regarding missed calls. When judging post plays, the officials need to be familiar with the legal and illegal moves by players and need to understand what legal aggressive play is and when it becomes rough and illegal. They need to be skilled and ready to penalize players for unfairly dislodging, displacing, or dispossessing their opponents. In this section, we shall analyze the actions of both off-the-ball defensive and offensive post players, and when an offensive post player has the ball in his hands. There are a number of illegal actions associated with post play. We shall look carefully on specific techniques that are used by post players and shall try to emphasize what is most common. Off-the-ball play of the offensive post player. In post play, good calls are made on illegal off-the-ball actions. One of the main goals for offensive post players is to succeed in positioning themselves where they are comfortable in receiving a pass and from where they can efficiently score or fight for the rebound. One of the most common illegal actions made by offensive post players is moving backwards into the defensive player and thus displacing an opponent close to the basket. Offensive post players also try to prevent their defender from fronting them. They often illegally extend their arms or hook so that the defender cannot move to a new position. Hooking has, in recent times, become a common technique, but it is illegal and cannot be ignored by the officials. Displacing the defensive player. Let's see this play. White 8 receives the ball at the 3-point line. His teammate, White 11, is in a high post position with Red 10 guarding him. This is illegal use of the shoulder when trying to establish a better position on the court. It is correctly penalized with a foul. Extending arms. Blue 13 receives the ball between the center line and the 3-point line. He dribbles and looks for an opportunity to pass the ball to Blue 11. The offensive post player enters the restricted area, extends his arm, hooking White 9, and moves backwards, displacing the defensive player from his position closer to the basket. A foul is called on the defensive player, Blue 11. Correct. Pushing off. It often happens that when an attacking player moves closer to the basket behind his defender, the only way the offensive player will get the ball is with a gentle lob pass that goes over the defensive player but falls short of the weak side defensive help. Invariably, in this situation, the offensive player places a hand on the fronting defensive player and prevents him from backing up during the lob pass. This tight grip on the opponent restricts the motion of the defensive player and creates an unfair advantage. In such cases, officials should always watch the players rather than the ball. Let's look for this play again. The defensive player, blue 7, tries to get in front of the offensive player. White 14, waiting for the lob pass from white 4, positions himself closer to the basket. When the ball is on its way, the offensive post player, white 14, pushes his defender to prevent blue 7 intercepting the lob pass. This leads to an easy layup for the offensive player. This is illegal and is called correctly. Off the ball play of the defensive post player. In defensive play, some actions cause illegal contact with the opponent. This happens when an offensive post player is moving or is stationary, either before he receives a pass or when he already has the ball in hands. Pushing of the offensive post player. Blue 14 from the high post position moves further from the basket to receive a pass or to help the dribbler with a screen. Yellow 5 follows blue 14 pushing his opponent. An obvious foul is correctly called by the center official. But sometimes it is not easy to correctly call a pushing foul in post play. Watch this episode. Let's look carefully. White 4 moves through the restricted area to the post position. Red 15 initially follows the opponent without infraction. However, coming to the table sideline of the restricted area, Red 15 is blocking the offensive player. If this first illegal contact is not called, the further pushing makes it even more difficult for the officials to make the correct decision. Leaning, which is defending by using body contact, is a form of pushing. This is also illegal and needs to be constantly watched by the officials. Both offensive and defensive post players must respect each other's right of position. Moving an offensive player further from the basket, if allowed, gives the defensive player a vital and unfair advantage. While his teammate controls the ball in the front court, White 14 enters the middle of the restricted area. The defensive player, Green 4, bends his arm at the elbow, which is legal, but then he is pushing his opponent with his arm to move White 14 further from the basket. It is a foul on Green 4. Red 11 and 6 move the ball from the opposite side of the playing court to the table side, where Red 8 passes to post player Red 15. When Red 15 is jumping to catch the ball in the air, White 4 pushes him from behind. Pushing always must be called. White 4 dribbles the ball into the front court, and White 10 successfully moves into his desired post position. Just before and during the pass to White 10, his defender, Blue 14, pushes him from his desired position. Obvious foul. However, in some cases, different forms of pushing the attacking player before or while receiving the ball are not penalized by the official. White 4 sets a post position outside the restricted area. Blue 7 is trying to move him further from the basket. he pushes the offensive post player further from the side of the restricted area, both before and while he receives the ball. Displacing the attacking player from his position is a foul. This play should already be stopped. Pushing often takes place when the defensive player is trying to intercept a pass, but makes contact with the back of the opponent. Experienced post players skillfully defend passes from interceptions from the rear, and it is very difficult for defensive players to tap the ball without body contact. Hand checking, holding. The most effective way for a defensive player to counteract an attacking move towards the basket, other than getting help from the weak side, is to retreat to a new position in the offensive path to the basket. This is easy to do with a hand check, if the offensive player also has to turn and move to the basket. This play with the hand is illegal and must be penalized. When Black 7 controls the ball at the opposite side, post player Black 11 moves toward the ball handler. But when a ball is passed to the table side, Black 11 stops in the post position, waiting for a pass from Black 10. White 14, who is guarding the post player, tries to retreat to a position in front of the offensive player, but alternately holds him with his left and right arm. This is a personal foul. A foul is also correctly called on Blue 15, who extends his left arm, causing contact with White 7, and then holds him with his right arm. In post positions, defensive players sometimes try to prevent their man from moving both to and away from the basket. Blue 9 cuts through the restricted area to the post position. White 5 holds the offensive player and then extends his arm to prevent Blue 9 from moving. A foul on White 5 is correctly called. When White 15 receives the ball on scorer's table side, White 12 enters the restricted area from the opposite side and tries to establish the post position. Blue 4 holds his opponent and stops him from moving freely. Continuing his illegal play, Blue 4 then pulls the offensive player. A foul on Blue 4 is correct, as catching, holding, or pulling the offensive post player is against the rules. Let's watch it again. In all of the previous examples, a foul on the defensive player was correctly called. In this clip, when the blue team moves the ball into the front court and Blue 11 establishes his post position in the restricted area, the officials miss a foul on White 4, who is holding his opponent. Watch the two players at the side of the restricted area. Blue 11 establishes the post position with White 4 defending him. White 4 grabs his opponent, preventing him from receiving the pass. This is a personal foul. Blue 11 raises his arm and the wrestling starts. The lead official watches this play but doesn't call a foul. This is incorrect. Finally, a foul on White 4 is called, but he should have been penalized earlier. Play with the ball by the offensive post player. In this section, we shall analyze the attacking post player with the ball. One of the plays to be emphasized includes moving into the defender. We shall also watch some examples of the illegal use of arms that restrict the freedom of the defensive player. As is the case for off-the-ball play, hooking by the offensive player may not be permitted. Moving into the defensive player. When an offensive player receives the ball, the officials must carefully watch for him attempting to move backwards towards the basket over the defensive player. Backing in consists of either a partial turn or a half step into the defensive player in order to move him backwards. Another way of displacing the defensive player is with the post player dribbling with his back to the basket. We can see a similar play by the attacking player, white 14, and the defender, black 13, in the next clip. Many offensive post players master quick turns to the baseline or inside the restricted area, but the defensive players learn how to react. Officials are correct with calling the charging foul on white 14. Hooking. In other situations, when an attacking player with the ball fails in his attempt to step into the defender, he will attempt to reverse around the defensive player. This is much easier if the attacker is allowed to wrap or hook his free arm around the back or across the hip of the defensive player. This illegal post play stops the defender from moving laterally. In this situation, when the attacking post player, white 13, moved with the ball into the restricted area for a shot, a foul was called on the defensive player, green 14. It was an incorrect call. White 13 was hooking his opponent and preventing him from moving to defend his man. It should be a foul on white 13. Here, white 14 makes a turn around red 9. Two officials simultaneously incorrectly call a foul on the offensive player. White 14 extended his free arm into the neck of the defensive player and delays the defender's reaction long enough to get 1 foot on the floor closer to the basket. Defensive play when a post player controls a ball. When the offensive player receives the ball at the side of the restricted area in the post position with his back to the basket, he sometimes gives the ball to one of his teammates. In other cases, does he dribble and attempt a shot? Or uses one of many quick moves designed to beat the defender? After dribbling, he partially turns and steps up for a shot inside the restricted area, or moves along the baseline. In this play, a defender trying to prevent his attackers moves by making early contact. Contact from behind. As mentioned earlier, while examining the elements of off-the-ball defensive post play, contact with the body by leaning and pushing the ball handler also takes place. It is necessary for officials to immediately make the call. Otherwise, the game may escalate with harder illegal play from both players. Unfortunately, sometimes the officials miss obvious infractions. Black 15 receives a pass from teammate Black 6. Here, there is no call in spite of a clear contact from behind committed by White 7 against the offensive post player. The steal by White team is unfair. Illegal use of hands. The rules say that officials should decide whether the defender that uses his hands gains an unfair advantage. If a defender's hands are placed upon and remain in contact with an attacker to impede his progress or influence his shooting motion, then a foul should always be called. Yellow 4 receives the ball close to the restricted area. The basketball rules say that touching of an opponent with hands is in itself not necessarily a foul. But Red 14 repeatedly touches and jabs his opponent, trying to force him away from the basket. A personal foul is correctly called on Red 14. White 8 receives a pass and dribbles towards the basket. The defensive player, Blue 12, wraps his right arm around the back of the dribbler. This foul is correctly called. Elbowing. When attacking post players receive the ball at the side of the restricted area, they often reverse around the defensive player. As some offensive players are very quick with their feet, it is also a common practice that a defensive player appears not to be able to continue to face the opponent from the reverse move. Here, if the defender elbows or pushes, then the foul should be called. Let's watch some play situations when elbowing from the defensive player takes place. When White 14 quickly moves around Green 4 to the baseline, the defensive player uses his bent arm and pushes the passing attacker. A foul on the defensive player is correctly called in a similar play with the same attacking player, White 14. This time Red 11 is guarding him. Red 11 elbows the dribbler. A personal foul on the defensive player is correctly called. In this last example, White 14 fouls Red 13 as he is ending his shooting motion, which started with a quick turn around the defender. Here White 14 is elbowing, but as it happens in the act of shooting, the penalty will also include a free throw. Moving towards the shooter. In post play, the defensive player often legally forces the offensive player to move into the middle of the restricted area where there is help from other defenders. In this play, the defensive player of the ball handler plays an active defense. Following a turn and legal steps made by the attacker, the defender causes body contact that should be called. The official must carefully watch the defender's move from the side when he is trying to get in direct line with the attacker and the basket. White 10 dribbling at the side of the restricted area turns inside the lane, making a step before the shot. The defensive player continues to face up to the offensive player off the reverse move, but approaching the shooter, he causes body contact. The arms of White 9 are straight up, but bad placement of the offensive player occurs. This creates an unfair advantage for the defensive player and is a foul.
2 shots.
In conclusion, sometimes illegal actions from both defenders and attackers occur approximately at the same time, and officials need to clearly see all elements of play. Defender Blue 14 places both hands on the back of White 12, and then when the attacker turns, he pushes him. However, White 12 extends his left arm to prevent Blue 14 from playing defense. The foul is called on the attacking player, but pushing by Blue 14 was also an infraction. In the reciprocal action of White 5 and Green 15, officials without doubt called a charging foul on White 5 for moving into his opponent. However, Green 15 played defense with several infractions, and a foul should have been called on him earlier. Firstly, he extends his knee and pushes his opponent in the buttocks. He then places both hands on his back and then pulls. This example shows how complicated a basketball game is for officiating and how the officials must be familiar with the different types of play.